It is the year 2055. After a time of turmoil, Earth is at peace. But this peace has come at a price. A police state is in place, led by a tyrant known as the Governor, and the New World Army. There is no freedom, no religion, no courage. Fear grips the world. No one is allowed to speak their mind. No one is allowed to think. This is the new world. But one man searches for an answer. For someone who is not afraid. For courage.
I am the storyteller. More and more people seem to be finding this thing called courage. But for something so powerful, it seems to be extremely fragile. If someone's not careful, it could quickly disappear. The governor has gone to great lengths to hide these stories of courage. But there's someone close to the governor who has seen them firsthand. Please state your name for the camera.
No,
I just need it for the record.
I will not give it. Move on.
Please state your name.
Mr. X.
What do you do?
I am senior advisor to Governor Farr II. The fact that you found me means you're getting closer to the truth.
Is the governor hiding courage from the people?
Getting right to the point. I like that. Have you ever heard of a man called Aquino?
No, I don't think so.
He was once a mentor, but now something else.
Please explain.
I was born after the Eastern Quadrant rebelled. I heard stories of how Governor Farr II wanted to make an example of the rebels. After sending the entire quadrant into slavery, he ordered the death of every male child born during the uprising. Can you imagine an entire generation of children wiped off the planet?
How did they get away with that?
It's called fear, storyteller. Fear can stop the strongest man in his tracks. There were rumors that one boy had escaped death. He was found in a river by the governor's daughter.
Does this have something to do with God?
You've heard of God. Then things definitely are changing. I don't know what to believe anymore. The governor's daughter couldn't have children, and she believed that the boy had been brought to her by fate. She begged her father to keep it. And who can refuse their own daughter's tears? So the governor granted her wish. and she named the boy Aquino after the river in which she found him. If I had been an advisor then, I would have warned the governor not to grant his daughter's request. It doesn't take a genius to know that boy would be trouble.
How could a boy be a problem?
Because boys grow up. And this one grew up to be a high-ranking officer in the army. Aquino was brilliant. He can see multiple solutions to any problem at once. But he was also very insecure, maybe because he wasn't really one of us. He always questioned himself. It didn't bother me. He taught me everything I know.
And when did he stop being your mentor?
When he found this.
That's the old flag of independence.
It was used as a symbol for the resistance. He found it in his baby clothes, and his mother told him who he truly was. He was not an elite. He was a slave. Aquino was different after that. He withdrew. There were whispers that he was searching for God.
Did he find him?
He found something. Aquino became obsessed. He wanted to know the truth about the governor and the elite. He said, "You can tell the truth about a country by how you treat the least among you." Aquino wanted to see the labor camps.
What were they like?
It's a horrible place, storyteller. The slaves in the labor camps were treated as if they were less than human. The overseer was very cruel. He beat a slave to death right in front of Aquino. And I knew what was going to happen. It was like watching a car accident in slow motion. You want to grab the wheel, you want to hit the brake. But it was too late. The course was already set.
I take it Aquino reacted.
Reacted. He erupted. He killed the overseer with his bare hands. Aquino had passed the point of no return. But something in him also died that day. I saw him smile a very sad smile. He knew that it was over. He was no longer one of us. He was a traitor. He left before he was captured, and he ran out into the wilderness. That was 40 years ago.
Did you ever talk to Aquino again?
I regret to say I had forgotten him. Until a month ago, during a council meeting, the door to the executive office was open, and in walks Aquino. He was older, disheveled. He looked like a nomad, but I can tell who he was through his eyes.
Why didn't the governor just kill Aquino right then?
I don't know. I advised it. But the governor wanted to embarrass Aquino. He wanted to break him. But Aquino would not be broken. He'd found something out in the wilderness. He found God.
How do you know that?
After the council meeting was over, I followed Aquino back out into the wilderness. I found him under a tree. He was shaking and trembling.
Why?
How would you feel if you stood up to people that you betrayed? People who wanted you dead? Would you hold a festival dinner and dance? Exactly. You'd be scared out of your mind. Aquino told me he'd found his heritage, his history. But more importantly, he found God.
Did he say what God looked like?
He said God appeared in a tree that didn't burn. God gave him a mission to return to the capital and confront the governor. But Aquino didn't want to do it. He didn't think he was good enough. He did not think he was worthy. He was a murderer, a traitor.
So why did he come back?
That reason is what makes me tremble, storyteller. Aquino came because God told him he was chosen.
And how did that make you feel?
Heartbroken. My mentor was crazy. I don't even know what God is, let alone these crazy stories of burning trees. I questioned everything. And the thing is, so did Aquino. He couldn't fully believe it either.
It does sound insane.
No. The point is, storyteller, it's not the God part that Aquino couldn't believe. It was the fact that God chose him. Aquino fully believed in God. His faith was as real as this table. But for all his wisdom, he still felt like an outcast. Like he had something to prove. He never felt like he belonged. It's like he was a nobody, which made him feel very insecure. Aquino looked at me and said he didn't think he could do what God wanted.
What did you say to him?
Nothing. I walked away. I told him to ask his God for help. I didn't want anything to do with him.
And did Aquino do what God asked?
He returned to the council room. He returned again and again. Each time he came, he stood in the face of the governor, and each time the governor let him live. I still don't fully understand why. Aquino clearly had something helping him. And that was his final lesson to me. Aquino taught to me courage. To stand up in the face of doubt. To take action, even when you're afraid. And then I saw it. I saw God prove Aquino in front of everyone. Do you remember the period of darkness?
You're referring to the thing that the papers are calling the 10 plagues?
I mean, that's what the papers would have you believe they were. But let me tell you, storyteller, they were something else. They were 10 acts of God. Aquino just had to show up, and God did everything else. Water turned to blood. Frogs fell from the sky. The acts were so terrible that the governor finally listened and ordered the labor camps freed. I said earlier that I would advise killing him the moment he showed up. Storyteller, I swear to you, I don't think we could have. Aquino clearly had God on his side. I advised the governor that he was fighting against something more powerful than anything he'd ever come up against. But his hatred and his need for revenge blinded him. And he sent the special forces to bring the slaves back. Aquino led the people to the Superior Sea. And they were trapped. There was no way out. When the governor heard this, he ordered the special forces to exterminate everybody. It broke my heart. My mentor was crazy. What kind of fool leads their people to a dead end? I'll tell you what kind of fool, storyteller. The kind believes in a powerful God. Aquino and the people were there at the edge of the sea with the special forces coming down. And suddenly, God appeared. The sea split in half. Can you move the waters of the mighty sea, storyteller? Can anybody? No, it's impossible. But nothing's impossible for God. Aquino and the people marched through the split waters to freedom. And the governor doesn't want anyone to know this. But after Aquino and his people had reached safety, the sea swallowed up the entire special force. As quickly as it had split, it closed up again. The army was dealt its most brutal blow.
Have you heard anything of Aquino since?
The people continue their journey toward freedom. That's the last I heard. I leave you with that, storyteller, just as I leave my own life behind.
Where will you go now?
Into my own wilderness. I need to find him.
Aquino?
No. God. So long, storyteller.
Story seemed incredible, but it had to be true. I have to believe it. God seems to be the one who gives us courage. Aquino seemed like a man who had absolutely no reason to believe. A man who lived a life unsure of himself, unsure of who he was until he met God. And even though Aquino doubted himself, God still came through for him. It just seems like we have to believe in God and then he does the impossible. I must find this scribe. Maybe he can help me find God. Remember, courage rises, hope spreads.